Good evening. 50th anniversary of Hunter visiting the Kentucky Derby. Cheers. Bourbon. Part 13. Where we left off. That poor geek, I thought as I hurried down the escalator. They sent him out here on this perfectly reasonable assignment, just a few photos of motorcycles and dune buggies racing around the desert. And now he was plunged, without realizing it, into the maw of some world beyond his ken. There was no way he could possibly understand what was happening. What were we doing here? What was the meaning of this trip? Did I actually have a big red convertible out there on the street? Was I just roaming around the Mint Hotel escalators in a drug frenzy of some kind? Or had I really come out here to Las Vegas to work on a story? I reached in my pocket for the room key. 1850, it said. At least that much was real. So my immediate task was to deal with the car and get back to that room, and then hopefully to get straight enough to cope with whatever might happen at dawn. Now off the escalator and into the casino, big crowds still tight around the crap tables. Who are these people? These faces? Where do they come from? They look like caricatures of used car dealers from Dallas, but they're real. And sweet Jesus, there are a hell of a lot of them. Still screaming around this desert city crap tables at 4:30 on a Sunday morning, still humping the American dream. That vision of the big winner somehow emerging from the last-minute pre-dawn chaos of a stale Vegas casino. Big strike in Silver City. Beat the dealer and go home rich. Why not? I stopped at the money wheel and dropped $1 on Thomas Derson, a $2 bill, the straight freak ticket, thinking as always that some idle instinct bet might carry the whole thing off. But no. Just another $2 down the tubes. You bastards. No, calm down. Learn to enjoy losing. The important thing is to cover this story on its own terms. Leave the other stuff to life. And look, at least for now, on the way down the escalator, I saw the life man twisting feverishly into the telegraph booth, chanting his wisdom in the ear of some horny robot in a cubicle on the other coast. Indeed. Las Vegas at dawn. The racers are still asleep. The dust is still on the desert. 50,000 in prize money slumbers darkly in the office safe at Del Webb's famous Mint Hotel in the bright heart of Casino Center. Extreme tension. And our life team is here, as always, with a sturdy police escort. Pause. Yes, operator, that word was police. What else? After all, this is a life special. The Red Shark was out on Fremont where I'd left it. I drove around to the garage and checked it in. Dr. Gonzo's car, no problem. And if any of your men fall idle, we can use a total wax job before morning. Yes, of course. Just bill the room. My attorney was in the bathtub when I returned, submerged in green water, the oily product of some Japanese bath salts he'd picked up in the hotel gift shop, along with a new AM/FM radio, plugged into the electric razor socket. Top volume. Some gibberish by a thing called Three Dog Night about a frog named Jeremiah who wanted joy to the world. First Lennon, now this, I thought. Next we'll have Glenn Campbell screaming, "Where have all the flowers gone?" Where indeed? No flowers in this town, only carnivorous plants. I turned the volume down and noticed a hunk of chewed-up white paper beside the radio. My attorney seemed to not notice the sound change. He was lost in a fog of green steam. Only half his head was visible above the waterline. "You ate this?" I asked, holding up the white pad. He ignored me, but I knew. He would be very difficult to reach for the next 6 hours. The whole blotter was chewed up. "You evil son of a bitch," I said. "You better hope there's some Thorazine in that bag. Because if there's not, you're in big trouble tomorrow." "Music!" he snarled. "Turn it up. Put that tape on." "What tape?" "The new one. It's right there." I picked up the radio and noticed that there also was a tape recorder. One of those things with a cassette unit built in. And the tape, Surrealistic Pillow, needed only to be flipped over. He'd already gone through side one at a volume that must have been audible in every room within a radius of 100 yards, walls and all. "White Rabbit," he said, "I want a rising sound." "You're doomed," I said. "I'm leaving here in 2 hours, and they're going to come up here and beat the mortal shit out of you with big saps, right there in the tub." "I dig my own graves," he said. "Green water and the White Rabbit. Put it on." "Don't make me use this." His arm lashed out of the water, the hunting knife gripped in his fist. "Jesus," I muttered. And at that point, I figured he was beyond help. Lying there in the tub with a head full of acid and the sharpest knife I'd ever seen, totally incapable of reason, demanding the White Rabbit. This is it, I thought. I've gone as far as I can with this waterhead. This time it's a suicide trip. This time he wants it. He's ready. "Okay," I said, turning the tape over and pushing the play button, "but do me one last favor, will you? Can you give me 2 hours? That's all I ask. Just 2 hours to sleep before tomorrow. I suspect it's going to be a very difficult day." "Of course," he said. "I'm your attorney. I'll give you all the time you need. My normal rate's $45 an hour, but you'll be wanting a cushion, so why don't you just lay one of those $100 bills down there beside the radio and fuck off?" "How about a check," I said, "on the Sawtooth National Bank? You won't need any ID to cash it there. They know me." "Whatever's right," he said, beginning to jerk with the music. The bathroom was like the inside of a huge defective woofer. Heinous vibrations. Overwhelming sound. The floor was full of water. I moved the radio as far from the tub as it would go. Then I left and closed the door behind me. Within seconds, he was shouting at me, "Help, you bastard! I need help!" I rushed back inside, thinking he'd sliced off an ear by accident. But no, was reaching across the bathroom towards the white Formica shelf where the radio sat. "I want that fucking radio," he snarled. I grabbed it away from his hand. "You fool," I said. "Get back in that tub. Get away from that goddamn radio." I shoved it back from his hand. The volume was so far up that it was hard to know what he was playing unless you knew Surrealistic Pillow almost note for note. Which I did at the time, so I knew that White Rabbit had finished. The peak had come and gone. But my attorney, it seemed, had not made it. He wanted more. "Back the tape up," he said. I need it again. His eyes were full of craziness now, unable to focus. He seemed on the verge of some sort of awful psychic orgasm. "Let it roll," he screamed. "Just as high as that fucker can go. When it comes to that fantastic note where the rabbit bites his own head off, I want you to throw that fucking radio in the tub with me." I stared at him, keeping a firm grip on the radio. "Not me," I said finally. I'd be happy to ram a goddamn 440-volt cattle prod into that tub with you right now, but not this radio. It would blast you right through the wall, stone dead in 10 seconds, I laughed. Shit, they'd make me explain it. Drag me down to some rotten coroner's inquest and grill me about, yes, the exact details. I don't need that. "Bullshit," he screamed. "Just tell them I wanted to get higher." I thought for a moment. "Okay," I said finally. "You're right. Probably the only solution." I picked up the tape radio, which was still plugged in, and held it over the tub. "Just let me make sure I have it all lined up," I said. "You want me to throw this thing into the tub when White Rabbit peaks? Is that it?" He fell back in the water and smiled gratefully. "Fuck yes," he said. I was beginning to think I'd have to get out and get one of the goddamn maids to do it. "Don't worry," I said. "Are you ready?" And I hit the play button, and White Rabbit started building again. Almost immediately, he began to howl, moan, another fast run up the mountain, and thinking this time that he would finally get over the top. His eyes were gripped shut, and only his head and both kneecaps poked up through the oily green water. I let the song build while I sorted through the pile of fat, ripe grapefruit next to the basin. The biggest one of the lot weighed almost 2 pounds. I got a good Vita Blue fastball grip on the fucker, and just as White Rabbit peaked, I lashed it into the tub like a cannonball. My attorney screamed crazily. thrashing around in the tub like a shark after meat, churning water all over the floor as he struggled to get a hold of something. I jerked the AC cord out of the tape radio and moved out of the bathroom very quickly. The machine kept on playing, but now it was back on its own harmless battery power. I could hear the beats cooling down as I moved across the room to my kit bag and fetched up the mace can, just as my attorney ripped open the bathroom door and started out. His eyes were still unfocused, but he was waving the blade out in front of him like a man who wants to cut something. "Mace!" I shouted. "Mace! You want this?" I waved the mace in front of his eyes. He stopped. "You bastard," he hissed. "You'd do that, wouldn't you?" I laughed, still waving the bomb at him. "Why worry? You'll like it." "Shit! There's nothing in the world like a mace high, 45 minutes on your knees with the dry heaves gasping for breath. It'll calm you right down." He stared in my general direction. He stared in my general direction, trying to focus. "You cheap honky son of a bitch," he muttered. "You'd do it too, wouldn't you?" "Why not?" I said. "Hell, just a minute ago you were wanting me to kill you. And now you want to kill me? What should I do, goddammit? What I should do, goddammit?" "Call the police." He sagged. "The cops." "Yeah," I said. "There's no choice. I wouldn't dare go to sleep with you wandering around in this condition with a head full of acid and wanting to slice me up with that goddamn knife." He rolled his eyes for a moment and then tried to smile. "Who said anything about slicing you up?" he muttered. "I just want to carve a little Z in your forehead. Nothing serious." He shrugged and reached for a cigarette on top of the TV set.